Look closely at these three faces. On the surface, they share absolutely nothing in common. One is a bright-eyed aspiring actress in Hollywood. Another is a little blue-haired girl in a stop-motion animation. And the third is a hardened, intelligent detective in a 1950s thriller. But despite their completely different genres, different realities, and different worlds, these three characters are experiencing the same psychological shift. There is a quiet, desperate instinct deep within the human mind, a final emergency brake pulled only when reality becomes too heavy to bear. When a person faces a truth so devastating, a loss so shattering, or a guilt so suffocating, the conscious mind breaks under its weight. When our minds are left with no physical escape, it executes an internal flight response and simply disconnects from the world. It cuts the wires to the painful truth and spins a parallel universe from the threads of its own desires. It is a beautiful, fragile reality tailored perfectly to mask the victim's specific agony, keeping them safe inside a lie just to keep their heart beating a little while longer. The rules of reality change. In this case, the dead are alive, the failed are successful, and the neglected are loved. These characters will live inside their illusions. They will feel safe, they will feel in control. But a split reality is never a cure. It is simply a ticking time bomb, because no matter how beautiful, how heroic, how comforting the brain makes the lie, the real world always demands payment in full. A delusion requires a perfect, airtight environment, but the physical world does not cooperate. No matter how deeply someone retreats into their mind, the body still gets hungry, bills still arrive waiting for payment, and gravity still pulls them down. The subconscious mind is terrible at keeping secrets. It is always fully aware of the truth. Because of this, the trauma will always find a way to leak out. It can manifest as nightmares, unexplained anxiety, déjà vu, or strange symbols in the environment. The mind becomes haunted by its own repressed memories, and the illusion slowly begins to unravel. Living in a delusion is active, exhausting work. The brain has to constantly distort and explain away any evidence that contradicts the lie. Over time, the mental energy required to sustain it drains the individual, and when mental fatigue sets in, the defensive walls weaken and the repressed reality comes rushing back. A delusion is inherently isolating because it is so specifically tailored to one person's pain. No one else can truly share that reality. Humans are wired for connection, and a life lived inside a hallucination eventually leads to a profound loneliness. When a person reaches out to connect to someone else, the friction between the delusion and reality will inevitably cause the fantasy to shatter. Ancient cultures call this memento mori, remember you must die, to remind the living that death is inevitable. It is a fundamentally inescapable truth for every living thing. You cannot have the beauty of life without the finality of death. This concept manifests as a psychological or physical glitch, a reminder that the made-up reality is rotting at the edges. Just as the waking world and the dream world coexist, the illusion cannot survive without the truth that will eventually destroy it. Teddy Daniels is a hard-working family man with a wife and 3 young kids, but his wife was severely mentally ill. He ignored the warning signs until it was too late, returning home one day to find that she had ended the lives of all 3 of their children. In a state of absolute shattering grief and shock, he shot his wife to end her suffering, leaving him with an unbearable mountain of guilt that his mind could not survive. He is then sent to an asylum where his brain snaps. Coraline Jones is a young girl trapped in a cold, isolating reality of emotional neglect. After moving to a new state, her parents are completely consumed by their jobs, leaving her entirely alone in a gloomy, unfamiliar new environment. There is no warmth, no affection, and no one is listening to her, making her feel like she simply does not matter. Diane is a deeply broken, failing actress rotting away in a dark, filthy Hollywood apartment. She spent years chasing a dream that rejected her, only to be discarded and humiliated by the woman she loved. Driven by blind rage and jealousy, she pays a hitman to end her ex-lover's life, now having to live with the crushing weight of guilt. Andrew Laddis, now going by Teddy Daniels, constructs a reality where he is arriving at an asylum, the same one he's actually committed to investigate a missing patient. In this world, he is a sharp, fiercely strong investigator who is completely in control and highly respected by everyone around him. Actively hunting for justice, he transforms himself into a righteous detective on a heroic mission. His mind successfully buries his real identity as a broken, institutionalized patient who failed to save his family. Coraline steps into a colorful, magical wonderland that is a flawless, inverted mirror of her real home. In this alternative world, her other parents are entirely fascinated by her. They cook her favorite meals, build a lively garden in her honor, and put her at the absolute center of their worlds. This dreamscape acts as a perfect psychological refuge where she's showered with constant warmth, adoration, and emotional validation that she's starving for in her real life. Diane, aka Betty, constructs a Hollywood dream world where she is a naive, talented, and universally adored young actress who effortlessly captures the hearts of everyone she meets. In this constructed reality, her real-life failure is completely erased. Her murdered lover is reborn as an innocent woman with amnesia who relies entirely on Betty for safety, romance, and protection. This illusion allows her mind to experience a glamorous, inspired lifestyle, completely detached from the grim apartment where her true self is left to rot, and she is left to stew in what she has done. Teddy's subconscious starts to plague him with nightmares of his wife bleeding out while water pours through the room, subtly reminding him of her death and the death of his children. As his mental state degrades further, he experiences waking hallucinations of his wife, with his mind using her image to persuade him from investigating further. Because his subconscious mind knows that investigating further will destroy the delusion and force him to face his guilt. Water itself, linked to the children's death, constantly leaks into his delusions, manifesting as heavy rainstorms or water dripping from a ceiling that is dry. Matches play a significant role in exposing this delusion. Because he is actually a patient, he is not allowed to have matches. This is subtly shown when other characters always have to light his cigarettes for him. When Teddy is alone in the dark ward, his matches constantly go out. Because they're not real, he's hallucinating them. The matches represent something much darker. Just as he struggles to keep the physical matches lit, his mind struggles to keep his delusion alive. He believes he is shining a light on a dark conspiracy within the asylum, but in reality, he is only uncovering the truth about himself. In Coraline, the vibrant other world begins to visibly rot and lose its power the moment Coraline starts to question its perfection. As she tries to escape, the colorful environment actively decays. The glowing garden turns gray, and she realizes that everything beyond her home is merely a blank white void, proving that this reality is a lie. Even her neighbors deteriorate into grotesque creatures who speak in repetitive script. The ultimate collapse occurs when Coraline refuses to have buttons sewn into her eyes to remain in this realm forever. Instantly dropping her loving facade, the once doting other mother transforms into a spider-like predator and locks Coraline behind a mirror, proving that this whimsical fantasy has twisted into a nightmare far worse than anything she could have imagined. Betty's flawless Hollywood dream fractures during the performance at Club Silencio, which forces Betty's subconscious to the surface. As she sits in the theater, the presenter warns her that everything she sees is a total illusion. The dream is exposed as fake when a singer collapses mid-song, yet her vocals continue to play perfectly over the speakers. This beautiful dream is exposed as an artificial fabrication. At the same time, a mysterious blue box appears, acting as the literal anchor that drags Betty back towards her waking world. Teddy's reality undergoes a total deconstruction when he enters the lighthouse and is forced to stand face to face with the truth. The grand detective illusion completely shatters as he finally remembers that his wife was responsible for drowning his children and that he was the one who pulled the trigger on her in a fit of grief. The weight of this awakening is so unbearable to his psyche that he undergoes a full lobotomy to erase his mind permanently. He takes the ultimate downfall, preferring to live life as a hollow shell rather than exist for one more moment with the crushing guilt of his real identity. Coraline manages to narrowly escape the other mother's web, although her victory leaves her in a better place in the real world, with everyone coming together in the newly renovated garden while enjoying refreshing lemonade. Her reality has come at the cost of her losing her childhood innocence. She was forced to mature instantly, make difficult decisions, and learn the psychological lesson that real love is often flawed and quiet. The magical tunnel is permanently bricked up, and she is faced to accept that life is not perfect, as she will most likely have to navigate the trauma of what happened behind that wall. The glamorous illusion of Betty completely vanishes, slamming Diane back into her bleak apartment where the decomposing reality of her life awaits. She is entirely consumed by the monstrous guilt of having her ex-lover murdered, and the waking world quickly transforms into an inescapable psychological hell. Her mind fractures entirely as hallucinations of her past sins literally chase her through her bedroom. Driven by absolute madness, the loneliness, and the realization that she has destroyed everything that she's ever loved, Diane grabs a gun from her nightstand and ends her life, bringing her tragic story to a violent end. The conclusion we can draw from these three masterpieces is that a split reality is never a symptom of a weak mind, but rather the desperate, final defense mechanism of a human brain trying to save itself. When external reality becomes fundamentally unlivable and the body cannot physically flee from the situation, our minds execute a plan to pull a plug on the real world and build a customized filter. However, as Coraline, Shutter Island, and Mulholland Drive demonstrate, a split reality behaves like a loan. It grants immediate comfort and safety, but It charges a life-altering interest rate that the brain cannot sustain forever. Eventually, the mind runs on overdrive and shuts down. The illusions start to rot from the inside out, and the character is violently dropped back into a world that is far more intolerable than the one they initially fled. These extreme stories serve as a mirror to our own daily lives, reminding us that every human mind is capable of distorting reality. We do it in small ways whenever we zone out, bury ourselves in digital distractions, or lose ourselves in daydreams just to escape a world that has maybe become too heavy, busy, or overwhelming. But it makes you wonder, who's to say you aren't living in a fabricated reality right now, and you just don't know it yet?